3 days before the wedding, I was hit by a car and my spine was broken. Adrian sent the perpetrator to prison. I lay on the hospital bed, unwilling to wake up due to the devastating news of being disabled. In my hazy consciousness, I overheard Adrian's conversation with the doctor. "Adrian, it's still not too late to perform the surgery now. If we delay a few more days, Miss Vivian will truly be disabled for life. You just want Nina to be your bride, why burden yourself with half a life? If she's disabled, so be it, I'll take care of her for the rest of her life. If she recovers, she'll definitely cause trouble at the wedding. I promised Nina that I would grandly welcome our child into the Shen family. Only if Vivian is completely turned into a cripple will she treat my child as her own. Being disabled is fine, at least she won't bully the child." In an unnoticed corner, a tear slid down from the corner of my eye. It turned out that the wedding I had long anticipated was nothing but a lie. The love I desired was also my death warrant. In that case, I'll fulfill his wish. No need for more talk, follow my plan. The surgery to remove the uterus must be done cleanly, without her noticing. Once she wakes up, I'll take her to the orphanage to pick up the child. Without the ability to bear children, she'll surely cherish Rena dearly. The doctor wiped the sweat from his forehead, unable to bear it. "Adrian, you should reconsider. Miss Vivian is already paralyzed from the waist down, removing her uterus now, isn't that taking her life? How will she hold her head up in front of the Shen family elders in the future? Moreover, your child with Miss Nina is already 3 years old, and the girl looks 80% like you. If Miss Vivian discovers this, everything will be ruined." Adrian reached out, skillfully wiping my cracked lips repeatedly with a wet tissue. His voice was filled with the regret of unrequited love. "She won't discover it. As long as she's disabled, she'll be confined to the Shen family estate for life, unable to take a single step outside. I promised Nina that I would hold a grand wedding for her and watch our child grow up with my own eyes. Even if she's married to someone else now, I will never let her have any worries." The doctor beside him let out a long sigh, looking at my pale face on the hospital bed. "Vivian is a good girl, you two clearly grew up together since childhood, why insist on clinging to that? Forget it, I won't say more. As long as you think it's fine, proceed. Go prepare for the surgery, remember, do it cleanly, leave no traces. While Vivian hasn't woken up yet, I don't want her to suffer too much." The doctor quickly left the ward. Adrian took out his phone and sent a voice message to his assistant. "That driver didn't let anything slip, right? As previously agreed, transfer 2 million to his family and assist them in moving out of the city, don't let Vivian find out." Tears fell uncontrollably, soaking into the pillow. Adrian repeatedly wiped my body with warm water. Yet, a chill still spread uncontrollably throughout my body. It turned out that the wedding I had anticipated for 5 years was merely paving the way for Nina. That car accident was no accident at all, he was just clearing me, this stumbling block, for Nina. The happiness and fulfillment I imagined were all illusory mirages. Lies and harm were the true reality between us. I struggled to open my eyes. But soon, my body was injected with anesthesia. Before being wheeled into the operating room, Adrian tenderly kissed my forehead. "Be good, it'll be over soon, Vivian. I'll wait for you to come out." The cold instruments stirred relentlessly inside my body. My shattered heart cooled completely along with it. When I opened my eyes again, I had been sent back to the ward. Below my lumbar spine, there was still no sensation. Adrian was guarding the bedside. Upon seeing me awake, his face was filled with worry. He placed my hand in his palm and gently pressed it against his cheek. "Vivian? You're awake? Is there anywhere uncomfortable? If it hurts, tell me, I'll have them change your medication." His expression was as cherishing as before, but there was no trace of warmth in his eyes anymore. One person could truly go to such lengths for another. I gently shook my head and touched the stubble on his chin. "You haven't slept all night, have you?" "I'm fine, rest for a while." Adrian didn't think much of it, relaxed, and soon fell into a dream. I picked up his phone from the bedside and unlocked it. The wallpaper was still our pre-wedding photos taken in advance. The social media app in the background wasn't logged out. The pinned contact was noted as Nina. Clicking into the chat, besides cute kitten emojis, it was full of photos of Nina holding the child. Rena called for Daddy again today. She's so young but already knows Daddy is handsome. She'll definitely be appearance obsessed in the future. Rena had a good appetite today. She ate the entire cake you sent by herself. Rena is fussing to go to the amusement park with Daddy. No matter how I persuade her, she won't listen. Come over when you have time. Adrian didn't reply. Yet, under each photo, there were video records lasting up to 2 hours. Recalling how he once said he didn't like children. Only then did I understand, he didn't dislike children, he just disliked children born from my womb. He had set up a separate album for Nina. The password was the child's birthday. 5,000 photos documented the child's 3-year growth process. For every important holiday, Adrian was by their side. The second chat in the app was records of conversations with the wedding company. From the moment wedding preparations began a month ago, Adrian had reported Nina's name. The wedding dress was in her size. The invitations bore handwriting jointly written by the two of them. From the beginning, he had no intention of letting me attend this wedding. I smiled self-mockingly and didn't continue looking. I contacted my best friend, asking her to find another hospital abroad for my surgery. I applied to cancel all my domestic documents. My best friend didn't think much of it, assuming I had seen Adrian's true face. Between the lines, she was happy for me. Putting down the phone, I fell into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, I was awakened by Adrian's crying. He was clutching the hospital report, his shoulders shaking continuously. Vivian. The doctor said during the examination, they discovered you were born without a uterus and have no fertility. Don't worry, I won't disdain you. No matter what you become, you're still my wife. How about we adopt a child once you're discharged? With a child accompanying you, you'll surely get better gradually. I was the one who lost fertility, yet he seemed more saddened than I was. His acting was realistic, and I couldn't be bothered to expose it. After a long silence, looking at the report in his hand, I nodded heavily. Adrian, moved, shed tears and embraced me. I'll take good care of you, don't be afraid. No matter what others say, I'll stand by your side. After we get married, I'll transfer all assets under my name to you, as your security. Our chests pressed tightly together. But our heartbeats were at different rhythms. After a while, Adrian struggled to speak. It's just that the wedding is already prepared. Now that your body hasn't recovered, it might have to. Find someone to substitute for me, don't lose face for the Shen family. I knew what he wanted to say. Rather than putting myself in a passive position, it was better to propose it. At least I could save some face. Adrian was amazed by my change in attitude. But with his wish fulfilled, he didn't want to pursue it further. The phone rang. He glanced at it and said in shock, Vivian, what documents did you cancel? I quickly dismissed the message and explained calmly. It's nothing, the documents expired, I can replace them online. He didn't think much, hugged me tighter, his tone full of concern. Now that you're inconvenient, tell me anything, I'll handle it for you. Adrian, I want to be discharged. His emotions suddenly tensed. No, your body hasn't recovered, I don't agree. I pulled his arm and shook it, smiling brightly. Didn't you say you wanted to take me to adopt a child? There are nannies at home to take care, nothing will happen. I want to visit the orphanage, okay? In 5 years together, this was the first time I acted coquettishly with him. Adrian couldn't resist me and softened, agreeing. On the way, he took out the cakes prepared in the car long ago and placed them one by one in front of me. He said they were specially bought for me. But the packaging's note for toddler consumption still stung my eyes. I closed the bag, threw the cakes behind, and closed my eyes under the pretext of feeling unwell. This 5-year deception was time to end. As soon as we entered the orphanage, I was in the wheelchair. A little girl familiarly rushed up and hugged Adrian's leg tightly. Her mouth kept shouting daddy. Adrian's face changed slightly, fearing my suspicion. He hurriedly explained, don't misunderstand, this orphanage is sponsored by me. I've visited a few times before, this child is an orphan and has always called me that. I nodded, smiling as I touched the child's face. She looks a lot like you. If you didn't say, I'd think this was your child. What's her name? Rena, the one I'm preparing to adopt. Before he could explain further, Rena cried out for mommy. Adrian's face instantly paled. He frowned tightly and looked at me. I'm fine, go coax her. The child is pretty, I like her too. My words relieved him. Adrian didn't think more, hugged the child, and went into the office. I excused myself to the bathroom to avoid them. But at the door, staff discussions kept coming. Why is Adrian making his own child pretend to be an orphan? That outfit is all high-end luxury, more expensive than my life, who would believe that's an orphan? What do you know? Adrian has arranged everything, this is the only way for the child to legitimately enter the Shen family. Be smart when you go out, don't slip up in front of Miss Vivian. Indeed, the person at the tip of Adrian's heart is still Miss Nina. Back in university, the two of them liked coming here for activities, I saw it then, didn't expect it to come true now. A lone man and woman in the same room, right now, who knows if they're... The ambiguous laughter reached my ears, pressing on my chest until I could hardly breathe. Moving the wheelchair to the door, familiar voices came from inside. Is he good to you? Pretty good, but he's often abroad, so some things he can't take care of. This way is fine, he won't discover Rena's matter, and he's still fussing for me to bear him a child. Adrian smiled with curled lips, but his eyes were full of bitterness. Once Rena is received into the Shen family, you won't need to worry. If there's anything needing care, just message me. Right, this is the bracelet I just bought, consider it your wedding gift. Nina took the gift box, playfully winking. Why are you giving me things again? In 1 year of marriage, how many wedding gifts have you sent? The wardrobe can't fit anymore, if Vivian knows, she'll definitely be unhappy. While saying that, her action of accepting the gift didn't stop. Beside her, Rena laughed and pounced by her side, calling mommy nonstop. The dean, anxious to handle procedures, rushed in front of me and pushed open the door. A flash of panic crossed Adrian's eyes. Vivian, how did you come over? Don't overthink, Nina is a volunteer at this orphanage. She just came today to visit and discuss my adoption of Rena. Nina stood up, holding Rena in her arms and waving to me. Vivian, long time no see. I sat in the wheelchair, smiling and nodding, suppressing my grievance and saying, it's fine, I'm just wandering around. Since you're busy, I won't trouble you, I'll wait in the car. After saying that, I turned and left. Adrian thought I was angry, chased after me, and explained for a while. Don't misunderstand, she often comes to sponsor activities. The children in the yard all call her mommy. Once the adoption procedures are done, I'll explain to Rena. Looking at his anxious appearance for me, I suddenly felt like laughing. To legitimately bring the child home, he didn't hesitate to orchestrate a car accident to make me disabled. Now that his wish is granted, who is he showing grievance to? Don't worry, I'm not that unreasonable. Handle the procedures well, I'll obediently wait in the car. He breathed a sigh of relief and watched me return to the car. Every passing staff member looked at me with eyes full of sarcasm. I ignored them, took out my phone, and handled document cancellations online. To celebrate Adrian bringing the child home, the Shen family held a family banquet. I excused myself saying my body hadn't recovered and hid on the second floor to rest. But the mocking laughter of the Shen parents downstairs still seeped through the door crack. Moving the wheelchair, I stood at the corner of the stairs. Looking at the harmonious scene of the family of 3 downstairs. Adrian thoughtfully placed Rena's favorite dishes into her dedicated plate. Nina smiled and teased him, saying this would spoil the child sooner or later. Adrian didn't think so, touching the little crown on Rena's head. My daughter, even if she pokes a hole in the sky, it's her prowess. The grievances pent up in my chest erupted completely. I returned to the room and tore all the things Adrian had given me over 5 years into shreds, throwing them into the trash bin. The moment the trash bin tipped over, Nina suddenly appeared in front of me. She kicked over my wheelchair with one foot. I was in so much pain that I sweated all over, yet she raised a smiling face. Vivian, becoming a cripple must be painful, right? After so many years, you're still as useless as ever. Watching your own wedding replaced with my name, watching your husband bring home my daughter, you still have to swallow your broken teeth. I pity you. I struggled to climb up. The next second, Nina leaned back and fell straight down the stairs. Before I could react, Adrian had already hugged her in his arms. His gaze toward me was full of anger. Vivian, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Nina kindly went up to call you for dinner. Why did you lay hands on her? The Shen parents also looked at me discontentedly. Rena stood beside, wailing loudly. Bad woman. Bad woman bullying mommy. I don't want this bad woman to enter. I want mommy, I want mommy. Nina weakly draped over Adrian's shoulder. Sorry, I just told Vivian that I agreed to attend the wedding in her place. I didn't expect her to misunderstand. Don't blame Vivian, she didn't mean it. I lay embarrassingly on the ground, a cold smile curling at my lips. Adrian, the wedding, the car accident, the child, shouldn't you give me an explanation? Adrian furrowed his brows, a flash of panic in his eyes. Explain what? Your car accident, what does it have to do with Nina? She kindly agreed to attend the wedding for you. Not only are you ungrateful, but you also lay hands on her. Vivian, when did you become like this? Apologize to Nina. Before I could speak, the Shen parents had already cooled their faces. You're already a cripple and still not settling down. Do you really think you're still the Gu family's heiress? Besides my son, who else would want a waste? Enough, ignore her. Today's disability is her retribution. Quickly send Nina to the hospital, don't get hurt. My nails dug deeply into my palms, blood continuously surging from below. Adrian held Nina in one arm and led the child with the other. Just like that, he left the house. 5 years of love turned to ashes in this moment. I embarrassingly climbed onto the wheelchair, bought a ticket for the wedding day, and turned to go to the hotel. That night, Adrian sent a message explaining. Nina still has to attend the wedding for you. If you hurt her, it won't look good at the wedding. Asking you to apologize was an expedient measure, acting for her to see, don't overthink. My parents just said it casually, after the wedding, I'll bring them to apologize to you. Rest well, I prepared a surprise for you, it'll arrive on the wedding day, you'll love it. But I knew this play wasn't acted for Nina to see, but for me. This deep affection, he had pretended for 5 years. Now, it was time to end. For the next 2 days, I didn't go home. Adrian didn't either, busy preparing the wedding site, handling everything personally. On the morning of the wedding, I called him. He was busy instructing his assistant and didn't attend to me. Adrian, are you sure you want to transfer half the company's shares to Miss Nina? After all, she's not from the Shen family, isn't this too risky? Do as I say, this half is the compensation I promised her, the other half is what I leave for the child. Personally receive the wedding guests, be careful if the Gu family comes to make trouble. After the assistant left, Adrian remembered the connected call. Vivian? Sorry for making you wait, the wedding is about to start. Once it's over, I'll go back to accompany you immediately, don't be unhappy. Looking at the ticket in my hand, expressionless. Then you be busy, I won't disturb. Adrian, happy newlyweds. He was stunned for a second, then laughed loudly. It's our happy newlyweds, wait obediently at home for me. The call hung up, I turned and boarded the plane. After receiving the SMS of successful document cancellation, I deleted all his contact information. The wedding began. Adrian's mind kept recalling that call, unease surging in his heart. He turned to instruct the assistant. Go check where Vivian is, I'm holding a wedding with someone else, she'll definitely make trouble. The proceedings ended, Adrian held Nina's hand, toasting one by one. The assistant hurried over, face pale. Bad news, Adrian. Miss Vivian took a flight this morning and left. That flight just crashed into the sea. As the words fell, the entire wedding site fell silent. Adrian's face, just moments ago joyful and excited, instantly turned pale. The wine glass in his hand fell to the ground. Yet, he disregarded the so-called face of the Shen family, grabbing the assistant's collar. Eyes full of anger. What did you say? Say it again. Where did Vivian go? Beside him, Nina tried to pull him, continuously voicing to soothe his emotions. Adrian, don't be impulsive, everyone is watching, parents are here too. If there's something, say it later. Adrian? Listening to her softly worried words. This time Adrian couldn't remain calm as before. He shook off Nina with his other hand and pulled the assistant to an unoccupied corner. What exactly happened to Vivian? Shouldn't she be obediently waiting for me at the Shen home? We talked on the phone this morning, she clearly promised me. Perhaps due to emotional agitation, even Adrian himself didn't notice the uncontrollable tremor in his voice. He didn't know why he was agitated, but upon hearing of my accident, his emotions suddenly lost control. The assistant panicked and quickly showed the news of the plane crash on his phone. Miss Vivian did take this flight, I just found out. These 2 days, the Shen family said they were holding a wedding for you, short on hands, so all the villa servants were borrowed to the hotel. No one was at home to take care of Miss Vivian. I've checked her registration information, it's indeed this flight. I've also seen the villa surveillance. Miss Vivian left 2 nights ago, the night you left with Miss Nina. The hand on the collar weakly dropped. For the first time Adrian was overwhelmed by deep helplessness, without even the strength to stand. After a while, he said softly, no, Vivian promised me she would wait at home for me to return, and wished us happy newlyweds. No, wrong, she said, wish me and Nina happy newlyweds. His voice was very light, the assistant almost couldn't hear without listening carefully. Sensing something wrong, the assistant hesitated. Adrian, could it be that what you did was discovered by Miss Vivian? Otherwise, with her physical condition, it's impossible for her to leave at this time. If that's the case, I'm afraid. The latter words weren't finished. But Adrian had already foreseen the result. Yet he was unwilling to believe the bloody truth before his eyes, choosing self-deception. No, impossible, Vivian wouldn't discover it. With her personality, if she knew something, she would definitely come to me first to ask, but she said nothing, and didn't message me in the previous 2 days. I clearly explained the banquet matter to her, and she didn't blame me. She won't just leave like this, I won't allow it. Search, dig 3 feet into the ground to find her. Alive, see the person, dead, if dead, I want to bury her body with my own hands. The last sentence, Adrian roared with almost all his strength. The assistant was scared pale and hurriedly turned to investigate my whereabouts. As soon as he left, Nina approached. Still in her former weak and gentle demeanor. Gently linking Adrian's arm. What's wrong? Did something happen to Vivian? I knew that me attending the wedding for her would make her angry. But today is after all a big event for the Shen family. Several company bosses are here, Shen family elders are on site. Even if she's making trouble, she shouldn't get angry with you at this time. And lying about a plane crash, she's too willful. Adrian, you're just too indulgent with her. I know Vivian, she has no friends here. Once she thinks it through, she'll come back. Don't worry, parents are still outside waiting for you to toast. If it were before, Adrian might have believed her words, choosing to wait for me to return and obediently admit wrong. But this time, recalling my abnormal attitude, his surging emotions couldn't calm down no matter what. After a long time, he shook off Nina's arm, his face cold. Nina, I remind you one last time, you're just attending the wedding in Vivian's place. Vivian is nominally my wife. My parents aren't for you to call. Beside him, a flash of unwillingness and resentment crossed Nina's eyes. Before she could speak, Rena ran to them. Gently pulling Adrian's pant leg and shaking. Daddy, Daddy, Grandpa, Grandma call you over. That bad woman, can we ignore her? Rena wants to see Daddy, Mommy together. Hearing bad woman, Adrian's cold expression became even uglier. He turned sharply to Nina. Did you teach Rena that? Nina, the child is still young, what have you taught her? If you can't manage the child, from now on, hand Rena to my parents, don't interfere anymore. After saying that, without giving Nina a chance to refute, he turned and walked into the hall. The phone screen still lit with the plane crash news. Veins bulged on the back of Adrian's hand. From the hall door to the front path. Everywhere in his ears were guests' curses and disdain toward me. I heard Miss Nina is helping attend the wedding. Adrian couldn't really like that cripple from the Gu family, right? How possible? The Gu family moved abroad long ago, that Vivian has no relatives here. For such a big marriage event, no one from home came. Adrian must not have forgotten Miss Nina in his heart, this is turning the tables. Didn't you see how grand this wedding is? I don't believe he didn't plan ahead. Stop talking, Miss Vivian is pitiful too. Not only disabled from a car accident, but also infertile, this latter half of life can only be a waste. After all, the only heiress of the Gu family, now fallen to this. Every additional sentence those people said made Adrian's face uglier by a fraction. How could this be? Clearly, after the car accident, he had made everyone seal the news of Vivian's incident. The perpetrator's side was even less likely to blab. As long as waiting until the wedding ended, Vivian would be his nominal wife. He would live well with her in the future, watching Rena grow up. He would protect Vivian well, not letting anyone look down on her because of her injury. But why did the news leak? He hadn't seen Vivian these 2 days. During this period, what exactly happened? Did these people curse in front of her? Was she bullied? Various doubts lingered in his heart, pressing him until he could hardly breathe. The Shen parents saw him return and both breathed a sigh of relief. But their words gave him a fatal blow. Adrian, since Vivian has had an accident, let Nina enter the door in the future. Anyway, Vivian is a waste, keeping her at home is inauspicious to look at. You two pick a time to get the marriage certificate too, the Shen family hasn't had such a big joy in a long time. After the wedding, I'll go back and have the servants clean out Vivian's room as your bridal chamber. Adrian stood stunned, looking at his parents' joyful faces. For the first time, disgust arose. What marriage certificate? Isn't Nina already married to someone else abroad? Adrian's mother glanced at him and chuckled. If we didn't say that, how would you believe? Isn't it to let Rena enter the door? Nina willingly ruined her reputation to let the child recognize ancestors. You insist on clinging to that Vivian, we had no choice. Anyway, that cripple is gone now, perfect, Nina doesn't need to act anymore. From now on, you're a family, her going abroad before was forced, we don't blame her. A few words almost collapsed Adrian's reason. His parents' smug faces pierced deeply into his heart. Recalling his questions to Nina these days. Every time mentioning her husband abroad, Nina always evaded. Never actively mentioned how they met. Her social circle had no traces of her husband's existence. He was truly foolish, only now discovering the truth under her lies. And to bring Rena home, he harmed his soon-to-be wife to death. Vivian had no relatives or friends domestically. She stayed here for him. He had promised to be her reliance for the latter half of life, never betraying their relationship. But what had he done now? Guilt and regret pulled back and forth in his heart. After a while, Adrian spoke coldly, my wife will only be Vivian. Whether she's alive or dead, I'll only marry her. Whether Nina is married or not, I don't care. The night with her 3 years ago was a mistake, if I knew it would result in Rena, I would never entangle with her again. Since this wedding is what you wanted, you handle the aftermath yourselves. My wife, even if I risk my life, I must find her. Words fallen, Adrian turned and left. Before he could exit the hall, Nina quickly ran in front of him, holding Rena. Nina cried anxiously. Adrian, Rena accidentally broke a cup just now, her arm is cut. Where are you going? Can you first send the child to the hospital? Blood dripped from Rena's slender arm. At the same time, Adrian's phone rang. It was the assistant calling. He didn't look at Nina again, only leaving. Take a taxi yourself, from now on, hand the child to my parents. Then left the wedding site. Just out the door, he immediately answered the assistant's call. How is it? Found Vivian? The assistant sighed long. Adrian, I've searched everywhere possible, now I only know Miss Vivian stayed in a hotel 2 nights before leaving, and her boarding information at the airport, nothing else. You should go ask the rescue team, after so long, the body might have been salvaged. Before the assistant finished, Adrian hurriedly hung up. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe Vivian would abandon him and leave alone. Even less believe Vivian was in that plane crash. He got in the car, flooring the accelerator all the way to rush to the rescue team to inquire. But after 2 intersections, he suddenly braked and stopped by the roadside. Annoyedly slapped his own face twice. It was he who orchestrated that car accident. It was also he who personally ordered the surgery. Now Vivian's body was weak. A plane crash that even normal people might not survive, how could she have a way to live with her condition? In the midst of emotional loss of control, he took out his phone and opened the chat with Vivian. Looking at her smiling avatar opposite, as if Vivian was still by his side accompanying him. At such times, only looking at traces of Vivian's existence could barely make him feel at ease. He reached out, trembling, stroking Vivian's avatar repeatedly. The chat record still stopped 2 days ago. He explained that night's banquet to Vivian, words earnest. But Vivian never replied. She never failed to reply to his messages, no matter what she was doing. His messages were always special reminders. His calls, Vivian would answer immediately. When did she start changing? Adrian surprisingly didn't notice himself. It seemed everything changed after the car accident. Flipping up the chat records, it was Vivian eagerly anticipating the 5-year wedding. Adrian, does this wedding dress look good? I want a sparkling gown, my long legs can't be wasted. How about shooting our wedding photos in this style? Print them out then, hang in the most conspicuous place at the wedding site. I want the whole world to see my happiness, see that I have such a loving husband. Adrian, the wedding ring bought last time seems a bit big, can I change to another? You said you'd give me a surprise, could it be you designed the ring yourself? You're so good. He did personally design a wedding ring. But, it was for Nina. Those gowns were just props to perfunctorily deal with Vivian. The wedding Vivian eagerly anticipated for 5 years. From the beginning, he was deceiving her. But she never discovered, always immersed in the joy of love. Thinking she found the world's most cherishing reliance. The girl's joy between the lines made Adrian cry uncontrollably. Tears fell on the screen. He sent messages to Vivian repeatedly, expressing his long-lasting love for her, his indebtedness to her. But the messages sent only received red exclamation marks. Vivian had blocked him. Adrian didn't hesitate anymore, restarted the car to the rescue team. But everything was too late. The rescue team hadn't found Vivian's whereabouts in the sea at all. At the same time, my plane landed, I had arrived abroad. That plane crash was deliberately arranged by me, a trap specifically set for Adrian. He wanted me disabled, wanted me living worse than death, wanted me living in lies. As a gift, as repayment, before leaving, I also gave him a big present. My best friend came to pick me up at the airport, seeing me in the wheelchair, cried with a tear-streaked face. How could this be? Adrian, that scumbag, didn't he promise to take good care of you? Was it him? Why can the surgery only be done abroad? It must be him, right? Vivian, even now, you still can't see his true face? You still want to cover for him? I smiled and wiped the tears from her eyes. I'm fine, aren't I well? Before, I wanted to stay by his side myself, now like this, consider it a lesson. I don't want to entangle with him anymore, leaving like this is good. How's the surgery arranged? I want to go home after rehabilitation, don't want family to worry. My best friend nodded hurriedly. It's arranged, invited an expert here. He saw the medical records, said high success probability, just can't delay. I'll send you over now. The surgery lasted 5 hours. The doctor said luckily came in time, if delayed 2 more days, I would never stand up. Now just need to wait for body recovery, slowly do training, recovering to normal life isn't difficult. I no longer paid attention to domestic news. But the Shen family name was too prominent. The phone pushed news every day. At the Shen wedding, the groom fled midway. Nina became a laughingstock. The Shen parents came out to explain, saying Nina was the Shen daughter-in-law. The statement just issued was exposed by Adrian. He registered an account under his real name, posted our marriage photo online, and declared his wife in this life is only Vivian. Rena was carried back to Shen home by Adrian. He threatened with his life, not allowing Nina to appear in Shen home. Otherwise, he would destroy all Shen family assets. The Shen parents were unwilling but couldn't defy their only son. Could only do as he said. Nina's dream of flying into luxury shattered. The two families completely tore faces, suing for Rena's custody. But Adrian, as the child's father, never explained for her. Looking at the curses against Adrian in the comments, I increasingly couldn't understand him. All this was clearly his own choice. Now I made way for him and Nina. This belated deep affection, who was he pretending for? I no longer opened domestic news, focusing on recuperating in the ward. My best friend came almost every day to care for me. Days weren't boring. But Adrian was the complete opposite, consecutively a week without finding my whereabouts. He drank daily, rarely sober. When sent to emergency for gastric perforation, looking at the brother he grew up with, he doubted himself for the first time. Was I wrong? Vivian isn't dead, right? I've searched all rescue teams, know her body, the boarding info must be fake, right? The Gu family has immense power, all this is her punishment for me. The doctor helplessly sighed long. Tell you the truth, Vivian was comatose before, didn't open eyes, but still conscious, everything you did, she knows. During surgery, I saw tears in her eyes. Adrian, she's heartbroken by you, won't come back. From the start, I advised you, you and Vivian are a pair. Nina was just a brief bubble in university, gone, should disperse. You live in memories, I couldn't wake you. Vivian's appearance once became your salvation. I thought you childhood sweethearts wouldn't be disturbed by Nina, but you still made the wrong choice. Nina isn't good, the ideas she gave you were to thoroughly ruin Vivian, yet you were obsessed, now no turning back. Do you really think that night with Nina abroad 3 years ago was accidental? You know everything in your heart, from when you planted this seed, your relationship with Vivian was already broken. Only then did Adrian understand what he missed, what he lost. But it was too late. Disregarding his just-operated body, he took a taxi to the police station to report. From the police station, he found my new identity information. 1 day later, he appeared abroad, at my ward door. Watching me on crutches, strenuously doing rehab training, tears fell uncontrollably. His tired eyes filled with bloodshot. He didn't speak again, nor make any sound. Just hid behind the wall, staring blankly for a long time. Before leaving, he left a note, asking the nurse to pass to me. It read, "Granting you half a lifetime without seeing each other is my final promise to you."